What if your son is satisfied making the huge profits that he's making and he doesn't want to work 24/7 the way you're working? Maybe your son is really, really good at what he does and you're the only one who isn't giving him credit for that. Most business owners, particularly the entrepreneurs who started their companies, etc., because they started from scratch and they had to work night and day and so forth. And so from their perspective, nobody works as hard as they do. Of course, they didn't have any choice. There was no safety net to fall back on. They had to work night and day, etc. So I think the most important question they got to ask themselves is, are they comparing it to the way they did it? Are their kids performing at a really high level? Is the company still really profitable? The fact is, most owners will agree, yeah, I know my kid's going to do it somewhat differently. But the beauty of business is there's a bottom line. And if the bottom line continues to be really good, there may be more than one way to do it. And your way may not only be the right way. I think of Greatest Generation, an auto dealer, and my very first meeting with him, he was talking about his son, and he just started berating his son and saying, all kinds of disparaging things as if son was very inadequate, etc. And the truth was, his son was a phenomenal dealer, among the top 10% in his particular manufacturer in the country. He was tremendous. In their particular situation, dad ran one store and son ran the other store. And dad's store was doing slightly better than the son's store. The truth was they were in two different markets, and an argument could easily be made the son was more effective than the dad was. The dad had a much easier situation, but the dad was just giving him a really hard time. And so I said, wait a minute. You've got a Ted Williams complex. He said, what do you mean? And this guy, again, was Greatest Generation going back, and he said, Ted Williams was the last 400 hitter. There's never been another 400 hitter since. And you expect everybody to be a 400 hitter. Well, yeah, if you're going to play on my team, that's what you got to be. What if your son is satisfied making huge profits that he's making and he doesn't want to work 24/7 the way you're working? Well, then he's not going to play on my team. Well, maybe you're missing some of this thing. Maybe your son is really, really good at what he does, isn't giving him credit for that. But I knew that I had to get his attention, that he had to begin to realize that his son was going to do it differently. And as long as his son was performing at a very, very high level, then kind of negativity that this father was creating about it wasn't helping at all. Fortunately, we went on to work together for about 15 years before that business owner died. And I believe he began to accept that his son was really effective. He just was going to do it different. Now, that's a constant problem that we see all the time, particularly the older generations, where they really did have this, if they're not working, they're doing something wrong. And one guy just said to me recently, why doesn't my son work on Saturdays? I said, well, just because they're not working Saturdays doesn't mean they aren't effective. My own situation, my father-in-law many years ago, as an entrepreneur, had his own business. He wanted me to come into that business. And his whole deal was you had to be there on Saturdays because that's what you did. The truth was all he was doing was a kind of job he could pay a high school kid to do on a Saturday. It was a very meaningful job. I would work from 5 in the morning till 10 at night. I wasn't going to work Saturdays and just be sweeping out, the office. Again, in his mindset, it was about work. Key to this deal is performance, because your kids are going to focus on performance. They're also going to want to say, I can do it smarter. I can delegate. I want more work-life balance. If you don't give them credit for that and for their ability to perform, even though they do it differently, you're going to have nothing but problems.